Hey, welcome back to Livin MN Outdoors. I'm Daniel, and thanks for tuning in to another fishing report. Before we dive into the report, just want to remind you guys, if you use any of the resorts or guides mentioned in today's fishing report, please let them know you saw them on Livin MN Outdoors. And with that being said, let's dive into this week's fishing report. Alright, this week we're going to start on Mille Lacs Lake. Kind of some big news coming out this past week. The DNR is looking at installing a 2-fish limit. The slot size would be 18 to 20 inches. And if it goes through, that would go into effect on August 16th. So, fingers crossed that they pass that, and that in the next couple of weeks, we will be able to go up and catch and keep 2 walleyes. But with that being said, let's dive into how the walleye bite is right now. The walleye bite has slowed down a little bit. The water temps are creeping up near that 80-degree mark, and that has slowed the bite down some. Now, still, some of the most productive areas, the deep gravel and the mud flats are producing quite a few fish, especially those mud flats pulling bottom bouncers with spinners. Some guys are still pulling crankbaits on lead core, or like usual, you can drop a drop shot or a slip bobber with a leech or half a crawler and find success that way as well. Now, there still are some of those walleyes up a little bit shallower, that 14 to 20 feet of water on some of those rock bars and reefs. Guys are getting them slip bobber fishing with crawlers and leeches as well. Now, the perch bite out on Mille Lacs. The perch bite has really fired up these past couple of weeks. They're getting them on the mud flats in that 20 to 26 feet of water. A jig and a crawler, jig and a leech, or slip bobbers with crawlers and leeches are working really well, and they are getting some really nice batches of big perch. Now, as far as the smallmouth bass bite goes, not a whole lot changing there. Those smallmouth are still in that 8 to 16 feet of water. They're on the rocks, especially if you can find some big secluded boulders. Those are typically holding several fish. Best ways to catch those right now, Ned rig, a swim bait. Some guys are getting them on hair jigs or jerk baits, but the Ned rig, the drop shot are definitely some of the best producers right now. Now, as far as the northern pike bite goes, they're still catching some big pike down in those southern bays. They're pulling big spinner baits and spoons. Still using that purple and white and silver is working really well. Trolling those at about 3.0 to 3.4 mile per hour. Now, the muskie bite. They're still catching muskies on those shallower weed lines in those bays, on some of those points just outside of the bays. And then, like usual on Mille Lacs, there's a lot of those big fish out over the deep water basins in proximity to the schools of tullabies, and they're out there just gorging on those big oily fish. Now, if you plan to fish out deep, open water trolling, that's been working well. Big rubber baits, if you can locate a fish. A lot of guys are using forward-facing sonar, locating the fish, casting a big rubber bait at them, and having success getting them to bite. Now, if you're fishing them up in shallow, top water, bucktails, shallow swimming rubber baits are working well up in there. And I tell you what, there are some absolute giants out on Mille Lacs to be had. Now, if you guys are looking for a place to stay, a pontoon rental, a launch trip, Castles Resort, they are booked up this coming weekend, but they do have availability the rest of the summer. And with that walleye limit changing, now is the time to get some cabins booked up, some launch trips, get all that lined up, because the August 16th is coming soon, and you're not going to want to miss out on Mille Lacs Lake. So, if you're looking to get up to Mille Lacs, go ahead and call Jeff or Kimberly from Castles Resort. All right, now moving over to Leech Lake. I was told this week by a bunch of the guides, it's kind of the dog days of summer, but there still are some bite windows on the walleyes. Now, sunrise and sunset are key times, but there has been a really good bite window from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Now, some of the key areas that they're targeting those walleyes are on main lake rock piles, deep weed lines, and mud flats adjacent to structure. Now, the weed lines 10 to 14 feet. If you get on those weed lines and there's a ton of little perch, keep searching around. You're going to want to avoid those little perch. But the weed lines are loaded with nice walleyes right now. Slip bobber and a leech or a crawler and a jig and half a crawler are working very well. Now, some guys have had some luck pulling Lindy rigs. So if you're not a slip bobber fisherman, you maybe don't want to throw a jig, you can pull a Lindy rig, and those are working good as well. Now, as far as the panfish bite goes out on Leech, the bluegill and crappies, they are pulled out to those very deepest weed lines now. The bluegills are in the cabbage, the milfoil, kind of a mixed bag. There's not as many crappies around anymore, but there are some really big bluegills to be had out on those deep weed lines. Now, as far as the muskie bite goes out on Leech Lake, the majority of those muskies are still hanging out on those shallow shoreline weed lines, especially if you can find cabbage. Those are holding quite a few fish right now. But some of those fish are starting to transition back out to those shallow rock piles. And the best ways to catch those right now are bucktails, topwaters, and shallow diving rubber baits. Now, as far as smallmouth bass go, the smallmouth bass bite has really started to pick up. Main lake rock piles over in Walker Bay, 8 to 16 feet of water. They're holding a bunch of those really nice smallmouth. Ned rigs, drop shots, swim baits, those are all working really well. And I tell you what, Leech Lake is an underrated smallmouth fishery. If you want to get out and chase some absolute mega smallmouth, go out and fish them on Leech Lake. Now, as far as the largemouth bass bite goes, the northern bays, Boy Bay, Sucker Bay, any of those shallower bays, lily pads, wild rice, reeds, spinner baits are the key right now. Everybody I talked to said throw a spinner bait and you will catch some really nice largemouth bass. Now, if you guys are looking for a guide out on Leech Lake Guide Team LLC, they have a great group of guys. Whether you want to chase muskies, walleye, panfish, whatever it might be, go ahead, look them up on their website, check them out on Facebook, give them a call, get something on the books, and you will have a blast up on Leech Lake. Now, if you guys are looking for a place to stay up on Leech Lake, Horseshoe Bay Lodge, they have hotel rooms, cabins, condos, full bar and restaurant, indoor swimming pool, hot tub and sauna, beautiful beach, plenty of water toys and activities for the kids. And when booking a room, mention Livin MN Outdoors and you might just get yourself a discount. So if you're looking to get up to Leech Lake this coming weekend or in the future, go ahead and call Cam or Courtney from Horseshoe Bay Lodge. All right, now moving over to Lake Winnie. The walleye bite has been a little bit tougher, but you can still get some fish if you are willing to cover some water. Now, the best depth range to target right now is 10 to 15 feet of water. The East Shore sand flats are producing quite a few fish out in front of high banks and down that stretch. Otherwise, over on the South Shore, on those deeper weed lines, pulling spinner baits or throwing slip bobbers has been very productive. Now, make sure that you do have crawlers, leeches, and fatheads in your boat because the fatheads have started to outshine some of the crawler and leech bites as of late. But that does vary from day to day, so make sure you have all three in the boat when venturing out. Now, as far as the perch bite goes, perch bite has been very tough. I did get one report that some perch were found over in the Bowens Flats area. I don't have a lot of specifics on that, but if you're looking to chase some perch, go scout around over in that area and you might run into some nice perch. Now, as far as the bluegill bite goes, over in Big Cutfoot, they are still hammering on them big bluegills. Remember, it is a 5 fish limit, 6 to 10 feet of water on the weeds. They're vertical jigging them right over the edge of the boat with ice fishing jigs and 1/16 and 1/32 ounce jigs. Tip that with a wax worm or a chunk of a crawler, and you're probably going to catch some really nice bluegills. Now, as far as the largemouth bass bite goes, also over in Big Cutfoot, the lily pads over there, throwing top waters or spinner baits is producing some really nice bass. So if you want to go catch some of those, head over to Big Cutfoot and you will have a great time. Now, as far as the pike bite goes, the pike bite has actually slowed down some, which is crazy because out on Winnie, you're always able to catch a ton of pike, but they have kind of slowed down, disappeared a little bit, which in my opinion isn't a bad thing. But for those of you who like to go out and chase those pike, they might be a little bit trickier to find. Then, as far as the muskie bite goes, a lot of guys are starting to troll for those muskies over on the east sand flats, Tamarack Point. That's a good area to try. And then over in Big Cutfoot, they are trolling over there as well, and they are picking up a few nice muskies. Now, if you guys are looking for a guide out on Lake Winnie, Scott Zupfer, he is the premier walleye guide out there. Whether you want to do an all-day trip or a twilight trip, Scott can hook you up with one of those. He does have some availability left, so go ahead, give him a call, get something on the books, and you will have a great time fishing with Scott. Now, if you're looking for a place to stay, the Pines Resort, they have cabins, campsites, full bar and restaurant, dock slips, live bait, fish cleaning shack, basically everything you need to make a phenomenal fishing trip up there. They do have some availability yet this fall and summer, so go ahead, give Chad a call and get something lined up and have a blast out on Lake Winnie. Alright guys, well that's going to do it for this week's fishing report. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. All the support has been awesome. If you guys do have an opinion on the new regulations coming to Mille Lacs Lake, drop those down in the comments, whether you think it's a good thing, a bad thing, not enough, whatever it might be. Let us know down in the comments. We love hearing your opinions. We do hope you guys can make it out fishing this coming weekend. Remember, be kind at the boat ramp, respect other fishermen, and most importantly, don't forget to get on out there and get living.